You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. So we did get a bit of news on Monday as well, and that is that I guess it's not altogether unexpected or surprising, but maybe a bit disappointing. Myles Brennan is going to transfer out of the LSU program. Some thought this might have come at any number of points throughout his career, but apparently he's finally reached that point where he's made that decision. It was first reported earlier today by Tiger Details. Brody Miller at The Athletic had it as well. And then Ed Ogeron did confirm it today, talking about Myles Brennan's decision to transfer out of the LSU program.
He just came meet with me. He said, Coach, he was teary-eyed. It was a tough decision for him. He thought that he just needed to find a place that he felt that he can go play for 1 year and start. And obviously, I know he's not going to play this year. He's not ready. It was a tough decision. I think he and his family made it. I told him, I said, listen, hey, you hold your head high. You gave all you can to LSU. You graduated from LSU, and I wish him the best.
So Myles Brennan did, via Twitter today and other social media platforms, release a statement. I'll just read it to you briefly here. It said, Dear LSU family, I cannot thank you enough for your unwavering support over the last 5 years. It was a dream to come to LSU wear the purple and gold. Now it's time to move on, start a new chapter. This is one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I know in my heart is time. I leave knowing since the moment I stepped on campus, I gave everything to Coach O and my brothers. I will be a Tiger for life and will never forget the memories from my time in Baton Rouge. I'm grateful for the support through the ups and downs from LSU fans, especially my incredible family. I look forward to what is next, finding the best fit to help me achieve my dream of being an NFL quarterback. Forever LSU, Myles Brennan. I'm going to tell you, look, when Myles Brennan lost the starting job to Joe Burrow for 2 seasons, many thought he might transfer then. He didn't. When he started in 2020, got injured, and we saw Max Johnson step up and play so well at the end of the season, many thought Myles Brennan would transfer. He didn't. He came back this season, was poised to compete for that starting job, and then he got injured, as we know, and everybody knows the story by now. But, you know, it's just rare that you see a player stick for 6 years in college football. And, you know, I thought Brennan would go one of two ways, quite honestly. I thought, number one, he might go to the NFL. And, you know, before you maybe roll your eyes at that notion, it's maybe uncommon, but not altogether unprecedented. The example that I always use is Matt Castle. You know, Matt Castle played 14 NFL seasons and never started at Southern Cal. In his time there in Los Angeles, he backed up Matt Leinart, but was a highly rated quarterback, never got the opportunity to play in college. Still was a 7th-round pick of the New England Patriots. And in 2008, when Tom Brady tore his ACL, Matt Castle started that season. I believe they went 11-5 that year. And then ultimately parlayed that into a starting gig as a free agent in Kansas City, and then ended up sticking for 14 years in the NFL. So, again, Myles Brennan's arm talent alone is going to get him an NFL opportunity. Not necessarily to be a starter, but his arm talent alone is going to get him an opportunity to go to a camp and try to earn a spot on an NFL roster somewhere. Whether that's this year or next year, whatever it may be. I can understand wanting to play college football and have an opportunity to put more tape out there than he's had. I can certainly respect that. But at some point, you say, okay, is it worth playing a 6th year or just jumping into an NFL system and trying to learn the ropes as a professional player? The other option that I thought could certainly be there for Myles Brennan is coming back to LSU and play for the new coach. I mean, you don't know who the new coach is going to be, but one thing's for certain. I don't think anybody assumes that Max Johnson has played well enough to eliminate any level of competition. I think whoever the new coach is going to have an open competition with whichever quarterbacks are here, because no one's been good enough and proven that they're the guy. So, and Myles Brennan included, and Garrett Nussmeier, and if Walker Howard ends up being a part of this class, I mean, the only thing that for Brennan I could look at and say, you know, this makes sense, is if LSU went and hired a coach that, you know, wants to implement a dual threat quarterback system, and then that doesn't really fit Brennan's skill set. But, you know, I do look back to this year and say, man, there were a lot of people who figured Max Johnson was going to win this job anyway. I'm not one of them. If you go back to the summer, we talked about this. I'm very confident in saying that the coaching staff at the end of last season, with the way it finished, they were hopeful that in the spring, Max would have separated himself. And it just didn't happen. Max Johnson didn't separate himself. And my belief was that Myles Brennan was going to start against UCLA. And I said this all summer long. I think he's going to start the first game. Now, how he plays determines whether or not he keeps that job. But I thought Brennan was going to start this year and was going to have the opportunity to be the starting quarterback this season. But the advantage seemingly that Max Johnson had was his athleticism, was his ability to run and make plays with his feet. And we just have not seen that this year. We have not seen Jake Peetz utilize the quarterback's ability to run in this offense. So, man, if you're not going to use the differentiator between Max Johnson and Myles Brennan in this offense, then what's the point in having him out there? I mean, I honestly think that Myles Brennan is a guy, I think we'd all agree with this. Myles has a better arm than Max Johnson. If you're just going to implement an offense where you got a quarterback sitting in the pocket and stretching the field and making strong arm throws to the sideline and over the middle, like Myles Brennan's a better quarterback than Max Johnson. That's got a better arm than Max Johnson. So that part of it is a little surprising. I know the timing is something else that people are going to talk about. Making this decision now if you're Myles Brennan instead of waiting to the end of the season. But y'all, this is where the NCAA with the transfer portal rules kind of, lead to certain situations like this. Think of it this way, all right? If you're Myles Brennan and you wait until the end of this season, so you wait until after Thanksgiving, keep in mind 80% of high school signees, 80% of signing classes are locked in by the mid-December, the December signing date. If you're Myles Brennan, you got to make sure you have a spot wherever if you're any transfer, you have to make sure you have a spot wherever you go. And the longer you wait, the more full classes get. That's the fewer spots there are. That's why you have dudes that enter the transfer portal and don't end up not playing anymore because there's no more spots anywhere. Now, that's alleviated a bit this year with the transfer rule where teams can oversign by a 1-for-1 up to 7 transfer. So that does give a bit more, a roster sort of leisure there, a leniency for these coaches that are filling up roster classes or signing classes and rosters moving forward. I guess that would have been the worst case for Brennan, is you leave after the season, you start looking, and there isn't a spot for you to go play somewhere. But, Myles Brennan's a guy that I think LSU fans are going to appreciate for his time here. He stuck it out for 5 seasons. He had his opportunity to be a starter twice, and both times was just bitten by injury, unfortunately. He was the backup on a national championship team, the greatest team we've ever seen, and was willing to sit quietly and be Joe Burrow's backup in 2018 and 2019 and patiently wait his turn. He's an outlier, a guy that was willing to wait 4 and 5 years for his opportunity to play. You just don't see that much in college football anymore, but it'll be off to somewhere else for Myles Brennan. What's next for LSU? Man, I think a giant part of that is going to depend on who the coach is. I mean, if LSU hires a coach that wants to implement a dual-threat offensive system, then, Garrett Nussmeier is probably your best option. And if that coach implements a dual-threat offensive system, Walker Howard probably doesn't end up at LSU. Why would Walker Howard sign with LSU if the coach is implementing a system that doesn't suit his style? Now, if LSU hires a coach that's similar to what LSU's running now, then you have a great competition next year among those 3, provided they're all back with Johnson, Nussmeier, and Howard. And then anyone else LSU may add through transfer or any other means. But what we know now is that it won't be Myles Brennan, as he has announced he will transfer out. Ed Ogeron today was asked during his press availability to look back at Myles Brennan's time at LSU.
I got to give it to Myles and his family. He remained patient. He waited his turn, and I thought he played very good last year at the beginning of the year. Right? I thought he was very accurate. I thought he made the right throws. He got a strong arm. And I thought he was going to end up having a great year. And unfortunately, he got hurt. And then unfortunately, he got hurt again this year. And things happened that way to where he thought that he had to move on and take a shot at another place. Hey, Joe Burrow did the same thing. It worked out for him. I hope the same thing works out for Myles. He wants to play pro ball. I hope he gets that shot.
You know, Ed has consistently said that he feels like he has multiple championship quarterbacks on his roster. See if Myles Brennan can find a landing spot. The other thing, and that Ed was asked today, on Monday, is what the quarterback room looks like without Myles going forward. And obviously, this would be a quarterback room on a team that he's not coaching. But here were his thoughts.
Nothing's changed really for the remainder of the year. And I don't know who they're going to bring in, what are they going to talk about them. That's for them, But nothing's changed, because he wasn't with us. I didn't expect him to play. I knew his rehab was taking a little bit longer, and he had some other things that he got to work on. And, he had a little knee that was hurt, stuff like that. So I think there's some things that he needs to get fixed up, get healthy. And but as far as the quarterback room, it's going to stay the same. The thing that with Garrett, he only has one more game to play that he can get redshirt, that he needs to redshirt if we decide to get redshirted. So that's something we talked about. Max is our starting quarterback. I'm going to play Garrett if we can. And we're going to talk about what game we're going to play him in.
Ed Ogeron laying out that how the quarterback room looks here for the remainder of this season, potentially moving forward. But Myles Brennan, as we mentioned, announced he will transfer and play presumably one more year of college football elsewhere before given an opportunity to head off to the pro ranks. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.